I know it's with heavy hearts that we're gathered here today to mourn the loss of Sherwin Klassman, who was a beloved husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, cousin, friend. And grief is always very difficult. And I know that the circumstances of the world and our lives right now make it really even more so. Close family had to remain out of town, where you have to record and live stream and sit far apart physically. There are traditions that we normally turn to for comfort that we just can't right now. And I just wanted to acknowledge that these are just additional challenges that we have to face, and that our tradition created all of this to help us in these times. And it's an additional level of pain and grief to not have that to support us in times of mourning. So I just wanted to say that and recognize that that really adds to your pain. I understand. And hopefully this can bring some measure of recognition of what you're going through. As someone who had the great joy of being able to share Pesach, Seder, dinner. Seder might be pushing it to say we shared Seder, but definitely dinner. We had Pesach dinner and Rosh Hashanah dinner with Sherwin and my children. I'm really honored to be able to be here with your family and to be a small part of honoring him this way. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Shivti beveit Adonai, kol yamei chayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai, ulevaker behechalo. My light, my God, this only do I ask, to live in your house all the days of my life. Keep me safe in your tent when evil days come. Hide me in the shelter of your tent. Set me safe upon a rock. Shema Adonai koli ekra, v'chaneni v'aneni. When I call, hear my voice, be gracious and answer. My heart tells me to seek you, to seek your presence. God, my help, do not hide your face, do not forsake me. Teach me your ways, lead me in your paths, and help me to hope in you. Help me to be strong and take heart, still to believe I shall see your goodness in the land of the living. One of the things that our tradition tells us in times of grief is that we can turn to the words of Psalms, both for comfort but also to express that which we may not be able to express on our own at very challenging times. And so we turn to the words of the 23rd Psalm traditionally. Some of you have it in front of you. Feel free to read it with me at this time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our rabbis taught that there are three crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasize that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, Tov Shem Mishemen Tov. A good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. It is this view that the Talmud teaches. Monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown and for the love they have given. They are shining examples of what it means to be a mensch. A Shem Tov, a good name. What did this mean for Sherwin? It means that Bobby, his wife of over 65 years, remembers him as a good husband and father. And she remembers him at 19, handsome and funny, and a few other things which I won't mention from our phone call. A good name means that his children remember him as a hardworking family man. They remember him as Boy Scout leader, baseball coach, dad. Sherwin Klassman held a Shem Tov. And he also led a good, full life, which we remember today even as we mourn his death. Born on December 23rd, 1933 on the west side of Chicago, Sherwin was raised from the age of 10 on by his mother, who he loved very dearly. As a teenager, he attended Farragut High School with the famous Kim Novak. In his late teens, Sherwin was introduced to Roberta, Bobby Cohn, from the North Side, and they were married in 1953. By the time he was 22, Sherwin had graduated from Northwestern and started his career as a CPA, which would last for over 55 years. Sherwin's 86 years of life were full ones. He loved baseball and opera, boating and camping and square dancing. Jewish tradition continued to be important to him throughout his life, whether it was going to shul for the high holidays or letting the people at Alexian Brothers know that he was Jewish. And of course, his life was full because of you, his family, the people he loved, and the people who very much loved him. And so who better really to speak to his memory and life today? So Dean, I'll start by asking you to come forward.
Greetings. I would like to welcome all 12 of you for coming today. This is bizarre. Before I begin, I must inform you that my dad had a great sense of humor. So I know my dad would want humor more than tears. My dad grew a mustache when my bubby passed away 40 years ago, and my brothers and I grew one as well at that time. And you'll see in a moment, my question my dad would ask is, why is Glenn's goatee the only one that doesn't have gray in it? When I attend the funeral, I always try to learn something about the person. So hopefully after I'm done, you'll learn a little more about Sherwin, our Klassman. Our dad had a very challenging childhood. He lost his father at the age of 10, and his two brothers were out of the house, which meant he was raised by a single mother who took the loss of her husband extremely hard. I remember my dad telling me that every weekend they went to the cemetery to visit her husband. This was a very, very difficult thing for my dad. Then at age 16, he met the love of his life. The love of his life. Hi, Mom. Okay. They spent the next 70 years together. They enjoyed traveling, square dancing, plays, and eating at the best smorgasbords in town. I do remember when they went to a smorgasbord and love the expression on my parents' face when the owner demanded they pay full price because my brothers and I ate so much. Sorry. My dad's middle initial R stands for Roberta. They had a very unique relationship for 70 years. Believe it or not, they really loved spending time with each other more than anything. They loved going to festivals, camping, and square dancing. I would like to refer to them as Jew-billies. Half Jewish, half hillbillies. This would kill if we all had our masks off. I believe I got my sense of humor and my work ethics from my dad. During the tax season, my dad worked 7 days a week for 3 months. He worked to support his family. He taught us to love your family, and your family comes first. He was also a very competitive guy. I would like to share some stories about my dad that ties into his personality. So, approximately 27 years ago, my dad was wearing this headband. It has, if you can't see in the back, it said Pete Rozelle, to show his sense of humor. So, it was July 4th, 1993, and him and I were the two fattest guys out there. And so the start of the race, I gotta look at Leslie. I knew it was gonna start off on the wrong foot because we're running through the Lincolnshire, and all of a sudden I could see to the far left, there was a car right in the middle of the street. And who was that? That was my lovely bride and my 2 kids. So we run by him and we wave. It was pretty amazing. Then I go and had my best time ever in my life, finish the race, and then my dad comes wearing this Rozelle headband, and he went into full cardiac arrest right before the finish line. But what's amazing is I'm standing over him, he's down, and there was a doctor, Dr. Dean, ironically from Condell, who gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and brought him back to life. So in my opinion, even though it's an extremely sad day today, my father had an extra 27 years to be with us, to see his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. And what makes him such a competitive guy, I remember when he woke up and the first words out of his mouth to me was, "How did I do in the race?" I couldn't believe it. So those of you who know me that think I'm out of my mind, think about that for a moment. That was his first thoughts. Did I finish? And I told him he didn't, and he was arguing with me. Yes, I did. So thank you, Wendy. At least someone's getting this. I'll bring you anywhere. Then the last thing is his sense of humor. It was April 14th. I don't know the year. He calls me up and says, "I don't feel good." So he asked me to come and pick him up so he could lay down at home. So I said, "Why don't we go lay down at Evanston Hospital?" He said, "Okay." I said, "Oi, got to know." So he's in the car. I was hoping he wasn't going to die right there, but thank God again, he didn't. We made it to the emergency room. The emergency room doctor immediately said, "I'd like to give you a shot, Mr. Klassman, because it'll stop any future damage to your heart." And he goes, "Well, let me talk to my son." So him and I talk, and he goes, "I can't have it done." I go, "Why, Dad?" He goes, "What day is it?" I go, "Sunday." He goes, "Sunday doctor. All the worst doctors work on Sunday." That was 30 years ago when the doctors did work on Sunday. So there's my dad. Again, his sense of humor goes, "I'm not having it done." The same doctor came in on Monday and said, "Now you have my shot?" And he goes, "Yes, he'll do the shot." So what makes it the final thing about this is my dad's sense of humor. So he's recovering from his 5 bypass that he had, because he tried to eat his way not to get the bypass, but he had the bypass that week. And his good friend, I'll name nameless, since it's not being on video great, I don't want to never get back to him, came to visit him. So his sense of humor was, the guy was coming through the door, the next thing I know, my dad goes like this and pretends like he's sleeping. So he didn't want to spend time with this individual. So as you could see, my dad had a sense of humor. There's a silver lining with this chapter in my life. As soon as my dad got sick and needed my help, our help, it doesn't say mine, correction, our help, my brothers and I and sister-in-laws all got together and helped them move, helped them to get the best medical treatment, sell their condos, and spending some quality time. My brothers and I are closer than we've ever been, which to me is a blessing. Sherwin, our Klassman, you taught me nothing's more important than family. I love you and will miss you forever.